Hi, my name's Isaac Shutt. I'm an estate planning attorney. I'm licensed to practice law both in Texas and in Wyoming. And this is part of a series of videos where I'm talking about the different roles that are listed in a trust document. And so in another video, I talk about what is a trustee and what are the roles and responsibility for a trustee, and also what is a settlor and what are they allowed to do. But in this video, I'm talking about the beneficiary. Now, you might think it's a little weird that I'm making a video about what is a beneficiary, because I think we all sort of intuitively know what a beneficiary is. But hang on a minute, it's not that simple. A beneficiary actually has some responsibility or some rights. And so that's what this video is about. So I would say if you're listed as a beneficiary under a trust document, that you should probably get a copy of the trust document. Most trust documents and our default code, at least in Texas, will say that you're probably entitled to a copy of that trust agreement. So before you do anything else, it would be a good idea for you to request a copy of that trust agreement. And the reason I say that's so important is because even if you think that trustee who's managing assets for your benefit is very trustworthy and things like that, I think it's important for the beneficiary to be empowered to know where their responsibilities and what the rights are for the beneficiary and for the trustee. And you can't just look at the law, because the law is basically trumped by the trust agreement. So a lot of times in our code where it talks about the different rules governing trusts, that's basically unless the trust agreement states otherwise. And so you have in a trust agreement a ton of latitude in the different rules. And so as a beneficiary, you want to get an idea of what those rules are in your particular situation. That's very important. I'll give you some examples of some things that become very important. So let's say you're looking through that trust agreement, and what you should be looking for is whether or not you're entitled to an accounting. Now, an accounting is something that basically, it's like where the trustee has to show her work and show all the transactions that she's done. And a lot of times that trust agreement will say that you're entitled to an accounting at any time. Or it might say that you're entitled to an accounting once per year. So you want to see the trust agreement to know, hey, how often can I request an accounting from the trustee? Because requesting an accounting really keeps the trustee on the straight and narrow, because it gives you as the beneficiary the ability to see, hey, is everything being done on the up and up? Has there been any stealing or self-dealing by that trustee? Have they been paying the taxes like they're supposed to? Why are they being so stingy with distributions to me when there's millions of dollars here? So getting an accounting can really be enlightening for you as a beneficiary. Now also, you want to see that trust agreement because you want to see when you're entitled to distributions. So trust agreements can vary greatly as to what distributions you as the beneficiary are supposed to be receiving. A lot of times those distributions are discretionary by the trustee. A lot of times they follow the acronym HEMS, H-E-M-S, Health, Education, Maintenance, and Support. That's a really common basic standard that the trust agreement will state. And so that trustee has really broad latitude in determining what constitutes a health cost, what constitutes an educational cost, and what constitutes a maintenance and support cost. But it's important for you as the beneficiary to know that, hey, if I have a health cost, I'm supposed to go to the trustee and say, hey, trustee, pay this bill for me. If you are the beneficiary of the trust and it says that you're getting HIMSS and you're college age, well, hey, the trust is supposed to be paying for your education costs. Don't go into a ton of student debt when the trustee is there to pay for those expenses for you. So that would be an educational expense. Hey, trustee, pay that for me. And other times the trust agreement won't necessarily state a discretionary distribution. It'll say that you're entitled as the beneficiary to a yearly distribution or a monthly distribution of a certain dollar amount. And you need to know that as the beneficiary so you can make sure you're getting your distributions. And last but not least, it's really important that you as the beneficiary understand what happens at termination. Because at termination, it could be that, let's say your trust is supposed to terminate when you're age 25, but only if you as the beneficiary request it. Okay, well, hey, if you don't have a copy of the trust agreement, you didn't know you had to request that termination of the trust. And so that trust may be continuing to live on, even though that's really not what you would want, because you never made that official request for termination. So you need to know, when is this trust for my benefit supposed to terminate, so that I can make that request and make sure that I get everything I'm entitled to receive outright upon termination. And kind of as a corollary to that, as a beneficiary, you might also be looking for something called a power of appointment. And that power of appointment is basically your right to sort of say, hey, that portion of the trust that I was entitled to receive, if something happens to me before the trust dissolves and gives me my share, I want that share to go this direction. So for example, you might say, under my power of appointment, if something happens to me and there's still money in the trust, I want to designate my spouse to receive the share that I was receiving. And that would be using your power of appointment. So some trust documents will give you that power of appointment, but the trick is you have to specifically utilize it. And a lot of times that trust document will specify how you utilize that. So it'll say you have to make a designation in your own trust or last will and testament, or it has to be in writing. And so you need to see that trust document to make sure, do I have a power of appointment? And if I do have a power of appointment, how do I exercise that power of appointment? So let me just recap this video. The beneficiary has certain responsibilities and rights under a trust document. It's not just as simple as, hey, I'm the beneficiary and I'm supposed to get money. You should look at the trust document for certain things, such as, am I entitled to an accounting? What distributions am I supposed to be receiving? And can I request distributions? When does the trust terminate? And do I have to request termination of my trust? And then last and not least, power of appointment. Do I have power of appointment? And if I do have power of appointment, how do I exercise that power of appointment? I hope you found this video helpful. Again, my name's Isaac Shutt. I'm an estate planning and probate attorney, licensed to practice law both in Texas and in Wyoming.